Remember, Europe has faced the horrors of 2 world wars last century. There was also this unending unease which lasted for several decades during the Cold War. There were heightened nuclear tensions, and now once again Europe is facing rising nuclear tensions. This comes as Belarus has now confirmed that it has started receiving delivery of the Russian tactical nuclear weapons. Our next report gets you more details.
Nuclear weapons. The most deadly weapon ever invented. No weapon is more destructive. No weapon causes such unspeakable human suffering. Also, the pain remains for long. The ill effects of the radiation remains to linger on for a long time. Why are we telling you this? Belarus has started receiving nuclear weapons from Russia. Moscow is moving ahead with its plan to deploy tactical nuclear weapons in a country which is its closest ally. Belarus's president says that these weapons are 3 times more powerful than the atomic bombs the United States dropped on Japan in 1945. The Russian president issued a stark warning that his country has the most number of nuclear weapons. Putin, however, has said that these nukes would only be used when Russia faces an existential threat. Belarus has borders with 3 NATO members, Poland, Lithuania and Latvia, and deployment of nuclear weapons so close to NATO members is raising eyebrows. Lukashenko, a close ally of Putin, says Belarus had numerous nuclear storage facilities left over from the Soviet era and had restored 5 or 6 of them. And the Belarusian president, who has allowed his country to be used by Russian forces attacking Ukraine as part of what Moscow calls it a special military operation, believes the nuclear deployment will act as a deterrent against potential aggressors, since Russia is moving nuclear warheads to Belarus. Today, Europe seems to be one diplomatic or strategic misfire away from a nuclear war. This is because the United States also has its nuclear weapon sharing agreements with 5 NATO countries: Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, Italy and Turkey. All these countries host American nukes. Putin, replying to Western critics, points out that why no questions are raised when the United States deploys these weapons of mass destruction close to its borders. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
All right, now to give us more insights in terms of what the transfer of these nuclear weapons into Belarus, of course, means, we're being joined by retired Colonel Rich Alden, who's joining us live from Washington, D.C. He's in fact a non-resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council in Turkey and also a geopolitical analyst. Now, Colonel Alden, thank you very much indeed, sir, for taking time out and speaking to us here in WION. Let me begin by asking you this. We've been talking about it for several weeks now, and Belarus has now confirmed that it has started to take delivery of these Russian nuclear weapons. What is your reading as to why Russia wants to send or position some of its nuclear weapons on Belarusian territory?
Well, it's good to be with you. Thanks for having me. The thing about tactical nuclear weapons is that these are not necessarily war enders. Remember, we went through decades of the Cold War in which both sides, the predecessor to the Russian Federation, which was the Soviet Union, and NATO, had a number, dozens, if not hundreds, of small tactical nuclear weapons along the border between two. There was a treaty after the end of the Cold War in order to reduce those inventories, but they never totally went away. So it was part of war planning on both sides to use these tactical nuclear weapons to destroy enemy troop concentrations and to sort of shape the battlefield, if you will. So it's not unthinkable, and the threshold between a tactical nuclear exchange and a strategic nuclear exchange is one that was carefully studied during that Cold War. I think what we're seeing here is that under the stress of the Ukrainian counteroffensive and starting to realize that perhaps the conventional victory, the conventional war that Russia is fighting is not going to end in victory, Lukashenko and Putin are both managing risk. So, and by this I mean the presence of tactical nukes on Belarusian territory means essentially that there won't be counterattacks like there have been in Russia into Belarusian territory. I think that's what they're doing, is they're trying to make it as painful as possible for any offensives against their own territory.
And also, it is difficult to predict as to which way the Ukrainian counteroffensive were to go. But in the scenario that the Ukrainians, in fact, gain an upper hand and that they are able to press forth their advantage, what we've seen from the Ukrainian side is that they are not shy of staging attacks inside the territory of Russia. Do you think the Russians may want to consider the use of these kind of tactical nuclear weapons if the Ukrainians were to cross over into Russia, if that were to happen?
I think so. I mean, that's the same reason, for instance, that the Iranians have sought a nuclear weapon to make sure that the United States or any other country won't conduct a ground invasion to overthrow their regime. In the worst case scenario for Russia, they lose their forces in Ukraine, their offensive crumbles, and then they're left with a stripped conventional defense and the idea that perhaps their own territory might then be lost or destabilized, subject to an attack from outside. So the nuclear weapons, even the tactical ones, are the ultimate trump card in that scenario to say, no, you can't invade my territory, even though I invaded yours. So in a sense, this is a demonstrative way of saying, don't even think about it. Even if I'm weak now, even if my offensive is failing, which I think the Russian offensive is, there's certain lines that you can't cross. And I think it's that sort of a warning to make these announcements.
Absolutely, indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Colonel Alden, for joining us and getting us all those insights there.
Good to be with you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.